Discover the power of functional medicine. With over 25 years of experience in functional medicine, family nurse practitioner Dr. Durrell has been preventing and reversing chronic disease, helping you live your best life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Durrell, and welcome to the Function of Medicine podcast. And today we are going to talk about gut health and gut health, how it really contributes to chronic disease and it carries over to multi system, and how we in functional medicine and in primary care can really prevent disease by looking at the whole picture, looking at the whole health story and the whole body, putting all the systems together. So, again, welcome to the Power of Functional Medicine podcast. Remember to like and subscribe. We're on YouTube and we're on Apple and Spotify. So, we're everywhere and we're here to help people understand what is it that they can do to reach optimal levels of health. And today's show is going to be all about gut health and how it contributes to other diseases in the body, and why is it so important to get your gut health optimized. And you see in the research, there's been so much about gut health. You could see the millions of queries of looking into what is it all about, what is gut health, how do I fix my gut, what's the best test to do, and we're going to get into that today on the podcast. So what is a healthy gut? I think that's really important to understand, because the word leaky gut is often used. And what does that really mean? Well, if you look here, you could see these junctions that are very tight. They call them tight junctions. And when they become more separated, that's when more toxins and other proteins that are too large, they come into our bloodstream. And that's where they create inflammation, or it could stimulate our immune system and contribute to autoimmunity. This is why gut health is so important. So, what you see on this slide is a healthy gut microbiome. And what is a healthy gut microbiome? It is a good amount of all the different keystone species. Those are good bacteria, beneficial bacteria. There's so much more than lactobacillus or bifidus. That's what you normally see in the probiotics that we always are buying. But there's so much more with the good bacteria, and it's important to find out if we have good amounts in our gut, because we're finding out that these good bacteria, and what they do is they make metabolites downstream, important messages for our body to create health and vitality. So what you see here, there's fiber, there's polyphenols. That's from those colorful fruits and vegetables. When we have a healthy microbiome and we eat fruits and vegetables, that's when there's such a good combo together, a synergism. And so when you eat polyphenols, when you have fiber, and you have this healthy, diverse species of the good bacteria and not an overgrowth of opportunistic bacteria, that's a healthy microbiome. And you also see an important mucus layer. That's a protective layer of the gut that is so important. And you'll see there's a bacteria that we're going to see on the good bacteria that you want to measure. It's called Akkermansia. Stay tuned and we'll see how to measure that on a stool test. That's what will help to protect the gut by making this mucus layer. So let's talk a little bit about how the gut affects other systems in the body. We see there's a gut skin connection. When there's an overgrowth of these opportunistic bacteria, what does it mean, opportunistic? It means they take the opportunity to create havoc, to put inflammation into the body, to stimulate the immune system, but they're normally in our gut. So you see, typical stool tests are looking for pathogens. They're looking for infection. But what we're learning about the microbiome, and this is what's so important, is that there can be normal bacteria in the gut, but when they're overgrown, they become inflammatory. And that's when they create this issue with the skin. It's an overgrowth of Staphylococcus and Streptococcus. You'll see that on a very good stool test. When that's overgrown, that's going to contribute to acne or psoriasis. When it comes to the lungs, you see this association with an overgrowth of bacteria that's normally in our gut with asthma. When it comes to mental health, we see this gut-brain connection with with an overgrowth of bacteria that can contribute to anxiety. and depression. And we'll see that soon with the vagus nerve. And we also see with metabolism that there can be this association with diabetes and obesity when there's an overgrowth of bacteria. But let's talk about this gut health connection because we see this really strong connection between arteriosclerosis and LPS. And what is LPS? Lipopolysaccharides. They're made by these same bacteria that we are calling them opportunistic because they are normally in the gut. They're not a pathogen that most stool tests are checking for. These are normal bacteria in our gut, but when they become overgrown and they die off, they release these LPS, these lipopolysaccharides. That's what creates inflammation. And that's what in the research is showing that can contribute to arteriosclerosis, the plaque in our arteries, the stiffness of our arteries that contributes to high blood pressure and the wrong and bad types of cholesterol sticking to our arteries. So we really want to do that gut microbiome stool testing to see these bacteria that are overgrown that are normally in our gut but creating inflammation. And those LPS or lipopolysaccharide producing bacteria. Now, here's the tests that we do in our integrative health center to really get to the root cause of heart disease, of metabolism, diabetes, and insulin resistance, to skin conditions like acne and psoriasis, to mental health, anxiety, and depression by seeing this overgrowth. And on this stool test, which is a quantitative PCR, which means we're going to get a quantity, you'll see that there's a quantity there that shows you not that it's there because we know it's there, but how much is it there? That's what's really important. And it's really important to know how do you reduce that? We can't throw the big guns like antibiotics because they're made for these pathogens. That's going to cause these to overgrow even more because it neutralizes the playing field. Those antibiotics, yes, they might be very good for infections and pathogens, but for these normal bacteria in our gut, when they're overgrown, antibiotics can make the situation even worse. So, how do we do it? And that's when we see that herbal medicine works very well with our gut microbiome. And the research is beginning to show that. That will show you on a later slide here, so stay tuned. And here we see the liver and gut connection, where that the liver is trying to detox and get rid of these toxins and get rid of these excessive hormones. But if we don't have the right gut bacteria, if there's an overgrowth of these opportunistic bacteria, then it could be recirculated back into the system. And we don't want toxins. We don't want hormones getting recirculated back into our system. And that's where the liver and the gut work together. And it's so important that the liver and the gut work together with the digestion and absorption of fats. And that's why you could take all the vitamin D, which is a fat soluble vitamin, but if the liver and the gut aren't working together well, then that vitamin D won't be absorbed. It won't be absorbed because it's not getting absorbed through the other fat, and that is this connection with the liver and the gut, because the gut's going to remove all these toxins and they're going to remove all these excessive hormones. And how you measure that is halfway through this test, halfway through the page here, you see the marker beta glucuronidase. That's an enzyme that when it's elevated, it shows us that that connection between the liver and gut is not working well. It's being overtaxed. And then we can use certain foods, certain direct nutritional supplements to really help the body support this process because we know now it's under a great duress. We can see that it's elevated on this very important stool test that really tells us not only overgrowth but gives us these results of these markers of steatocrit. You see on the top marker whether you're digesting fats. Again, digestion digesting vitamin A, vitamin D. Those are those fat soluble vitamins. That's super important for your immune system, for the health of your gut. And here you see beta glucuronidase, that enzyme that could recirculate toxins and hormones. You really want to know if that's elevated because you can support that through food and through nutrition. And now you see also the gut brain connection where you see this vagus nerve. That's a nerve that connects the brain and the gut. We've always known that the gut was the second brain, but now we know why because of this vagus nerve. So it's so important to get the gut microbiome balanced to get your vagus nerve working well. The vagus nerve goes back and forth. It's a bidirectional. It goes from the brain to the gut, but it also goes from the gut to the brain. And the gut tells the brain what to do. Sometimes the brain tells the gut what to do. And this is all very important to make sure that you're optimizing the gut microbiome, so you're optimizing the vagus nerve. So here you see from this slide that you see the vagus nerve going from the gut to the brain, but you also see when that tight junction is open more, that's called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. That's going to allow more toxins to go through. There'll be more inflammation, more larger proteins will be getting through, which can stimulate the immune system. And this is what you don't want, and that's what's going to make us go into fight or flight mode. So here you see that H. pylori, which is a very important bacteria to know if it's overgrown because it can cause conditions like gastric cancer or ulcers, but you want to make sure that it's measured correctly. And in this research study, we see that it's PCR testing that really is the most accurate way to measure the testing for the overgrowth in the gut. And we see that in the result, what's circled there is that quantitative PCR testing was the best way over urea breath test, over a stool culture to know about H. pylori, and especially to know what's called these virulent factors. You see, in the test that we use quantitative PCR. I mean, we're going to get a number because we know H. pylori is in the gut of about 80% of the population. So just knowing it's there is not enough. We want to know if it's overgrown and is it more virulent? Is it going to cause more damage? And the test that we use is it gives you exactly that information, and that is key. It also gives you the important information about the good bacteria. You remember I said that I would tell you about how do we measure the good bacteria, and you see here it's not about only lactobacillus or bifidus. It's not about too low or too high. It's more about we need a robust amount, a good amount of all these different good keystone species. You see, it's way more than a couple that are always in these probiotics. There's Akkermansia. That's the one that's key for insulin resistance, obesity, and diabetes. There's fecal bacterium. And what's important about that is that makes butyrate. Remember, we said it's not just only about measuring the bacteria, it's about what they make. And a lot of times, what they make, that's called metabolites or short chain fatty acids or postbiotics. You might hear the word postbiotics. Those are very important as well to measure. What are those postbiotics that these bacteria are making? One of them is known as butyrate, which is very important for healing the gut. And only on quantitative PCR testing can we measure that butyrate. And we can measure the amount of butyrate, and we can measure the bacteria for that. So remember, everyone, to if you wanted more information, you can check out our website. You could see whether all about the gut testing. You could see about making an appointment to come in for doing more intensive gut testing and really optimizing your primary care to the next level about prevention, not just screening, which is important, but prevention, which is more about getting to the root causes and the underlying causes. So you want to really put the whole picture together with blood testing and the advanced stool testing to really put it all together. So there's our website, www.sfihc.com. You can make time to speak with me there. And make sure you like and subscribe to our podcasts, our the Power of Functional Medicine podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And stay tuned so you catch all the latest information on functional medicine. And we'll catch you next time on the Power of Functional Medicine podcast.